young woman, Amy Carter, who weaponized the use of the police against a black man who said, "Get away from me, I'm going to call the police on you." And all he was doing was asking her to obey the law and put her dog on a leash. And then almost immediately thereafter, we had the George Floyd incident with him being killed. And I think as a lot of people are sitting home watching TV, they began to put all these things together. The tremendous income inequalities we see with the deaths from the coronavirus, the impact income inequality is having. 40 million people lost their jobs and their medical insurance. And I just think that the country has said we're not on the right track. We need to change the direction we're going in America. And all these protests have been spontaneous across America.
So it is fascinating and tragic at the same time, because the African American community has been the hardest hit in all of these incidents that you point out, from COVID on through all these incidents with the police. You're in an organization that helps put African Americans in places of leadership. How do we continue to do that, but in a much faster, more efficient way, so we could fix these problems?
Well, what I think is it should be done fast and efficiently and quickly if there's a change in public will. And I am optimistic that what we're seeing with such a multicultural, multi-ethnic, really multi-generational protest is, I think the possibility exists to really make rapid change. It's hard to change people's minds, and it looks like minds are being changed. And once that happens, I think it will be easy to begin to see the kind of change that we want. People will begin to look at themselves and ask the question, am I really biased in ways I hadn't thought? That's why I think, what happened in Central Park was in some respects more chilling than what we saw in Minneapolis, because we saw a woman who's an Obama supporter, a liberal who'd written checks for liberal causes, and when challenged, she immediately, almost subconsciously, took advantage of white privilege and said, "I'm going to call the police on you, a black man, and you know what that means." And I think what she did is she revealed the sort of racism that's in the air that people know is there and often say they don't realize it's there. But we know it's there. And recognizing a problem is the first step to solving the problem.
Exactly, and I heard that it's not enough to say I'm not a racist. You have to be an anti-racist. You have to actually speak up and not just stand by the sidelines.
That's correct. What we have is we have it's like having a mental health problem for the entire country. And any psychiatrist or psychologist will tell you, you have to admit that you have a problem before you can begin to solve the problem. And I think what we've seen over the last 10 days has caused a lot of Americans to recognize that we have problems with income inequality, we have problems with racism, and we need to do something about it. And as I've often said, the problem of racism is not one that black people can solve, it's one that white people must solve. The reason we have our organization is to try and train folks to sit on boards with predominantly white institutions to help those institutions begin to understand what they're doing and to help them change the way in which they relate to people of color.
Beautifully stated. Virgil Roberts, thank you so much. We love your wisdom. We would love to continue to talk to you. We appreciate you joining us today. He is the co-founder and board chair of the African American Board Leadership Institute. Thank you so much. We hope to talk to you again soon.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. Stay safe.
Thank you so much. You stay safe. We're going to go to Brea, where Tony Cabrera has been standing by there live, talking to people who've been demonstrating all day long.
David Ellen, we are now at the Civic Center. This is City Hall. This is police headquarters, and I'm speaking softly because it has turned into a silent protest here as they're all down on their knees here in solidarity in front of police officers with the Brea Police Department. You see there's just 5 of them standing right there calmly, and we see both sides of this as it is silent. There's been a few chants here and there, a few words that have been said, but I mean, what a dramatic scene here as we see a couple hundred people who were marching through the streets of Brea just a little bit ago, and now they have moved to this silent protest on their knees with their hands up, their fists in the air as they're staring at the police officers directly in front of them. Such peace in this moment right now, but a serious moment as they are making their voices heard in a silent way with police officers in front of them. There are a few other officers on the street as well, but I mean, wow, just look at this, and I guess maybe we should give you some silence just so that you can feel it with us. I mean, you can feel it, right? When you're in that silence, you just feel all of those emotions, right, David Coleman?
Absolutely. It's such an emotional thing to see, and you could look in their eyes, and you could see their signs, and you see their intent, and you have those interviews with members of this group earlier. They're all so well spoken, and they're very focused on what their goal is today and the need to be able to speak out. And you get that sense that it's all kind of flowing out of them right now as they face these police officers there at the Civic Center in Brea. It's a beautiful moment, and I'm sure it's very fulfilling for the people who have been in that crowd and protesting on the streets, but then to take a moment and truly think and deliver this message in a very silent way. It's really quite beautiful.
I loved one of the signs that said, "Silence is violence," so complicity and standing by and not doing anything.
Which is what?
It's equal to violence.
That was exactly what one of the young ladies that Tony interviewed about an hour ago basically said, and that, your silence is compliance, and silence is violence.
Silence, definitely. It is a powerful message, and it's remarkable how powerful it is.
Right, and we were just talking about that with Virgil Roberts with the African American Board Leadership Institute, and he was basically reiterating that as well. And this is a problem, and I think he found encouragement in the fact that when you look over the protesters, they're not all black. There's giant amounts of people that are multi-ethnic, and he says that's basically where we fix the problem. It's not up to black people to fix this problem, it's up to everybody else to fix it. And we're seeing this movement basically show that is taking place.
And if you notice, a lot of them are wearing masks.
Okay. So as we leave you with those images, it is a beautiful moment. We're going to check back with Tony a little bit later on. We want to talk about this. Blackout Tuesday, it has drawn a lot of attention, followed by skepticism surrounding the Black Lives Matter movement.
Stars are weighing in on this idea, and our entertainment guru, George Pinocchio, joins us live from his home to explain. Hey, George.
Well, good afternoon. This day is one that's been promoted by activists to observe, to mourn, and to bring about policy change in the wake of George Floyd's death. It's called by the music industry, really, initially, to go silent today, to call all this attention to not only him, but to others who have died at the hands of police. Many big-name artists, from Rihanna to Jennifer Lopez to Katy Perry, showing their support on social media, sharing a black photo and using the hashtags Blackout Tuesday and The Show Must Be Paused to help draw attention to the effort. The initiative was launched as a way for artists and executives to reflect on how they can better support the black community. But not everyone was on board with Blackout Tuesday. Grammy-winning country rapper Lil Nas X shared his worries on social media. "I know you all mean well, but bro, saying stop posting for a day is the worst idea ever. I just really think this is the time to push as hard as ever. I don't think the movement has ever been this powerful. We don't need to slow it down by posting nothing. We need to spread info and be as loud as ever." And Lizzo said this on Instagram.
Hey everybody, when you post your black square, please don't use the hashtag Black Lives Matter because it is flooding the hashtag search with just black pictures instead of information. So if you're going to post a black square, just post a black square and say it, but don't hashtag it.
Actress Kerry Washington encouraged her fans to buy black, sharing a link to support black-owned businesses or to donate to grassroots organizations. And an added reminder, selfies can wait. Chance the Rapper wrote on Instagram, if you're lost and don't know what to say or where to start, please use today to educate yourself and do some research. And Halle Berry and Oprah Winfrey both encouraging people to get out and vote. We also have a program reminder for you tonight. It's at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. It's an ABC breaking news special called America in Pain, What Comes Next? Again, 9 o'clock, anchored by Robin Roberts, David Muir, and Byron Pitts. Live from home, George Pinocchio, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Yeah, all those statements from those celebrities make so much sense, George. Thank you for that report. Businesses that were looted are now cleaning up the mess that was left behind.
And our community journalist, Eric Mersendes, gives us a look inside a music store that's been in downtown Los Angeles since the early 1900s.
This video shows the destruction left by looters this weekend at one of the oldest music stores in downtown Los Angeles, the International House of Music, which dates back to 1902.
We just went through COVID, and we were just barely about a week opening in, trying to get back in, trying to get our employees back in, because we gotta move forward, and now it's hard.
Cleanup efforts have begun at the store, and owners dad and son duo, Oscar Naranjo Sr. and Jr., say they estimate hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise was stolen.
It's mixed feelings because they didn't take everything, they didn't burn it down, so we're grateful for one thing, but I mean, the reality is they did. It's not just on TV anymore, it's real.
This entire wall was completely filled with instruments like guitars. Here's what it used to look like before. And now it's pretty much empty, but one of the areas that wasn't touched by the looters, that wasn't ransacked, was this acoustic room in here. The owners say there's about $150,000 worth of merchandise inside the vault. When the looters were here, they say that the lights were off in this room, the door was closed, and you can barely see inside because the window was tinted.
So there were some items that were in here from other stores, like some bags, mixed with shoes thrown around everywhere because maybe they had one pair of shoes and they'd rather take a guitar than a shoe.
The owners say they will be temporarily closed to the public until it's safe to reopen.
It's so many mixed feelings. Like, we understand why this is going on, and I think there needs to be a change, but I don't think that this is the right way.
And that was Eric Mersendes reporting. Right now we're going to take you live. Jory Rand is in East Hollywood and joins us now. Hi, Jory.
Hi, guys. How are you doing? This is day 5 of paternity leave for us. So we just put our little guy down when the crowd happened to come by on Melrose Avenue.
That's great.
And, yeah, so we're in about the second wave of this crowd that we've seen come through. About 1,000 people have already gone by. Sorry for the shaky footage here, but they are continuing to walk westbound on Melrose from Western Avenue towards back again where we saw a lot of the demonstrations begin at Pan Pacific Park. That's just a couple miles down the road, down on Beverly, and we saw that still north on Fairfax up to Melrose Avenue. And so from what we've seen, this is a very peaceful march. It just looks like a parade. We're chanting, and we're seeing all lining up throughout Melrose Avenue, people on their roofs watching this go by, flags, posters, chants, a lot of car horns honking, but just really a peaceful demonstration that we're seeing.
Well, Jory, can we take the moment to just congratulate you and Marcy on your baby boy, Brooks?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. She's right here too. Okay. we both say thanks. Mom's doing great, baby's doing great too. It's interesting times, you know. We feel bad. Normally we would be out there as part of this community covering one of the big stories of our time, and we've just been watching all the coverage on air. You guys are doing a great job, and hopefully we don't see another night of unrest here in Los Angeles.
Right, and as you say that, we are watching looters, but the police are moving in on them. But let me just say quickly, Jory, yes, thank you so much for contributing to our coverage. I know you didn't have to, so it's great to hear your voice, and we're imagining you holding a swaddled baby in one hand and a cell phone in another. But we appreciate that. So let's go back to this other. What you're seeing now live on the right-hand side of your screen is an arrest underway. Looters have been busted before your very eyes. The police moved in quickly. We're gonna. Okay.
Okay, so we have all 4 suspects. Earlier we saw them coming out of a store. They were running down the street, making a run for it on the sidewalk. They were able to get those looters, and thankfully, before they caused a lot of damage.
Yeah, and so while Jory was talking there, you saw the looters moving quickly down the street and then desperately switching direction and running the other way. But by then, police were on them. They had them to the ground. 4 looters now taken into custody. But let's point out and be very clear about this. This is a rare sight today. We haven't seen a whole lot of looting today. We're very encouraged by it. At the same time, we've seen so many protesters out there in very much different areas of Southern California, and they are all peaceful. So it's been a really positive day all in all. And we're not going to let these 4 looters that are being arrested right now taint the situation. We want to be very clear that this has not been going on throughout Southern California. And
as you take a live look at it from Jory's cell phone, you can see that procession of cars and people, and it's been happening all day long through the streets of Hollywood. Thousands of people turning out today, just almost like a jubilant parade, and it's been a different environment today completely.
Yeah, it has been. Today has an entirely different feel to it than other days. And I think the communication between police and protesters is significant, and also protesters know the rules. Now, it'll be interesting to see as we push towards the curfew, which is about an hour and 10 minutes away now. Things dynamically seem to change, but right now it's been a good day. All right, and then we went. Okay, here we go.
So we're looking at from Air 7 pictures. This is a pursuit of some suspects in the alleyway. We've seen some officers running down that alleyway there. You can see right in the middle of your screen. I don't know the situation exactly, but more of the same general area where we saw those other looters arrested.
Again, there seems to be no tolerance now of the looting. We did see looters freely going through these communities on Saturday and Sunday. That's not being tolerated today, and police are cracking down on them. And in this case, we did see just moments ago some being arrested. I think they have some arrests. Do they have arrests there? Or what is down below that? Let's bear with us as we get our helicopter.
Yep, they do.
More arrests being taking place of looters that are in the Hollywood area, so that is a positive sign. Let's
move on to the really big story, and that is the demonstrations that are taking place. And Veronica Miracle has been on the ground there in Hollywood. Veronica?
Well, David and Ellen, we're at Hollywood and Vine. You can hear a bunch of cars in the background as they come down the road here. I'm sorry, we're at Sunset and Vine, and as they come down Vine, you can hear all the honking. A very peaceful protest here. The National Guard has been standing by here. A lot of people engaging with each other. But, one protester came up to me, Leslie, and you just were telling me that you saw some people get arrested, which is kind of not in line with everything that we've been seeing. So what did you see?
So while I was actually walking to the protest, there was 4 black men in front of me. They were just minding their own business, not engaging, just walking, not talking, not moving, just doing their own thing. The police asked them to put their hands against the wall immediately. As soon as they saw them, they just walked up to them. The men didn't engage. They asked them to go against the wall, put their hands up, immediately put them in cuffs. I walked up to the encounter because I was concerned, and I asked them what was going on. They told me that I wasn't allowed to know and that I shouldn't ask. I continued to stay there and see what was happening. The men asked the police, why am I being arrested? And as they were patting them down, they told them, we will find out. We will find out why you're being arrested.
So you say that that's happening right over there.
And I was there for about 15 minutes till they made me leave, and they started calling in more people to crowd control. And even over the speakerphone, they had inquiries of businesses being broken down, but he still wanted more help with the 4 men who didn't do anything wrong to be arrested.
Okay, well, we certainly don't know the circumstances of what happened before, but in your opinion, what do you think needs to change? Because I think that's part of a bigger conversation here, and it's why I assume that you are here today.
Yeah, for sure. The reason I'm here today is because I definitely think that the police are assuming things, and I think that a lot of things need to change in the system right now. I think what we need to do is evaluate why the police are doing the things they're doing, and maybe instead of asking the citizen why, ask the police why first. Instead of taking action, why are we not asking the police why they're doing something and making that important while it's happening in the situation? People are being damaged from these kinds of things, from police officers assuming and taking out violence when they don't even know the situation and they don't even know if that person did anything wrong.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Leslie. We're going to take a further look around here. So certainly a lot of people fired up. Tense situations can occur, as we've been witnessing all afternoon. But from my observation, everything, at least here, has been very peaceful. Let's come over here and just take a look at this very poignant moment here. A young woman sitting here on the ground. They're clasped hands with others. And it really appears to be rather emotional here. So there are so many different ways that people are expressing their opinions, and it's quite beautiful to see at this moment here at Sunset and Vine. I'll send it back to you guys.
Certainly a moving sight there to see, emotions running so high throughout this day.
Yeah, so that is one scene. That was at Hollywood and Vine, I think is what Veronica said. And then we're also in Hollywood here in Air 7. You can see the tremendous amount of protesters that are there. So protesters are spread out all over Southern California. But it has been, as we've been saying, positive. So this group is on the move again. We don't know where they're headed. In fact, they may not know where they're headed, but they just want to make sure that they are seen and heard, as they have about another hour left until curfew.
And our reporter Rob Hayes had said that they seem to be doing like a big circle around the Hollywood area. He saw the crowd go by him twice, so they might just be staying in that general vicinity, and they're being allowed to demonstrate and do their chanting and walking and marching.
Another beautiful scene that we saw just moments ago was a moment of silence in front of the Civic Center in Brea. Tony Cabrera was with the crowd then, and he joined us now to tell us what's happening. Hey, Tony.
Hey, yeah, you're right. It was a beautiful moment, and we are so lucky that we were there to see that moment of peace, the moment of silence, as we march along with them now. But they were there for about 20 minutes, just on their knees in silence in front of those officers here in Brea. It was at the Civic Center, and there was about 5 officers there. But now they are now moving back towards their original point of the protest, and that was since 1 o'clock this afternoon. So it's been a long day. We've gone on a journey with these folks as they've marched through town and to City Hall, and so we have it remained peaceful, and that moment that we saw there. Can I ask you, what was it like to be there for those moments?
I'm just gonna see where they're going.
They're not interested. Okay.
The group split.
Okay. What's that?
Everything has been pretty good and peaceful, you know? All of us are doing this for a reason because, like I said, police brutality is not a good thing to experience, you know? And for me to see that happen in Minneapolis, I was like, this isn't right, you know? Like, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't even resist it or anything like that. So what I feel like is what we're doing something good, meaning like protesting to show the support and love for George Floyd, but not just anybody. Me as a Mexican and stuff, I have black friends, and like I say, every person here matters, whether you're black, Asian, or white. Anything matters here, you know?
Thank you so much. You all were there for those moments, right? Sitting there, or kneeling, I should say, in the silence in front of the officers at PD headquarters, at City Hall. What was going through your head?
It was just the sense of feeling like that 8 minutes was so long, and understanding what the importance of them and what they actually meant. And we were just kneeling silently, but imagine being under that amount of pressure for that amount of time.
Yeah. And to hear the leader, the organizer of this, kind of speak to everybody at the end and just said, you know, hey, remember our hearts, the reason why we're here, the peace behind this and everything. You know, what was that? Okay, we're crossing.
It really showed the sense of unity. What we're all here for the same reason is that we all care and we all realize that me being white is understanding that my privilege is a privilege and that my race is a privilege, and something that I need to do is understand that and then make a change.
Thank you so much. Well, there you go. We're with the Brea protests, heading back towards Birch and Brea Boulevard. Back to you.
We're going to go. All right, Tony Cabrera in Orange County, thank you. We look forward to more reports from you live among the demonstrators as we begin Eyewitness News at 5 with breaking news. Massive protests crisscrossing Southern California. Thousands of people demanding justice for George Floyd, who died at the knee of a Minneapolis police officer. Hello, I'm Mark Brown.
And I'm Colleen Sullivan in for Michelle Tuzzi. We are live right now on ABC7, ABC7.com, and streaming wherever you are on the ABC7 Los Angeles app.
We know it has been a difficult and painful few days, but we want you to know we're committed to keeping you informed and to expanding the conversation surrounding the death of George Floyd, the protests, and the violence.
The protests across Southern California have been extraordinary today, from Hollywood to downtown LA and Manhattan Beach to Brea. Thousands of people coming out to show their outrage over the killing of George Floyd. These protests have been largely peaceful and powerful in their solidarity. We have a team of reporters on the air and on the ground of these protests, and we begin with Eyewitness News reporter Veronica Miracle live in Hollywood. Veronica.
Mark and Colleen, I'm standing here with the National Guard right behind me on Sunset Boulevard. Certainly not something that you see every day. And looks like we've got, what are they applauding? Oh, we've got more protesters coming down this way, marching through here. Now it looks like the National Guard is telling them to head, or they're not allowing them to come this way, and it appears some of them might be kneeling on the other side. They're trying to converge with this crowd. I do want to show you, though, over this way, if we can kind of make it through this crowd here. There's a line of people that have been sitting. It started with this woman in the white t-shirt, just tears streaming down her face, and she was sitting in silence, and then this line of people formed around her. All right, now the crowd is saying, "Don't shoot," as they face the National Guard on both sides here. The chopper is overhead. If you can hear them there. Very jubilant scene. Oh, and looks like they're letting them through. The National Guard, Ryan, if you just turn around, sorry for the chaotic-ness of all of this, but the National Guard is letting that crowd through, and they are converging now, joining together. We're going to walk with them, as the National Guard has said it's okay for you guys to come together here. I mean, what a heartwarming scene, you guys. Take a look at this. Oh, yep. And now that the crowd has come together, everybody is super excited here. Sounds like we've got some cars or possibly a motorcycle also headed this direction. And as we make our way through this crowd here, just quite a bit of a celebration as hundreds of people are united under the same cause. And it's a little chaotic, so I'm just going to send it back to you guys as we make our way through here.
All right, Veronica Miracle. So it sounds like the National Guard was there and was blocking them for a time and then let them through. So another peaceful demonstration, one of many here in Southern California. And on the right, you're looking at live pictures from Air 7 HD of that same group. The same hundreds of people who are moving westbound on Hollywood Boulevard at Orange Avenue. They're passing by the Chinese Theater. They're passing by the Dolby Theater and the El Capitan Theater on the left, Orange Drive, excuse me. Heading down Hollywood Boulevard, the famous Walk of Fame on both sides of the street there, the stars lining the sidewalk and the people in the street. Again, marching in demonstration of outrage at the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, and expressing their desire that things change. People of every color, of every age, it looks like, and all coming together.
Everyone coming together. And so there were so many large groups of thousands of people marching through Hollywood today, many of them kind of connecting as well, but they have been very peaceful. They have definitely showed their power in numbers. They are very unified, saying that they are outraged over any police brutality, but they are together, largely very peaceful, and just people sort of unified in very large groups of numbers. And in downtown Los Angeles, again, a march and rally, a call for justice, the peaceful protest led by members of the clergy.
Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda live near City Hall, where the mayor today joined with protesters with a symbolic gesture in support of their message. Carlos.
With no repercussions.
Yes, that did happen earlier. Now, look at Grand Park now. It's really empty. It was full of people here until about an hour and a half ago. And look what's remarkable. Look at the grass. There's no trash. There were thousands of people here, but everything is clean. So they definitely wanted to be today play by the rules. They wanted to come out and protest, but they didn't want to break any laws. You can today there were several protests here in downtown Los Angeles, and all of them converged. As I said, they wanted to send a clear message. The Baptist ministers today assembling this march to honor the life of George Floyd. Clergy from the Los Angeles community uniting to demonstrate solidarity.
We need peace, but we need justice. We need to make sure that you're in the streets fighting for justice, not your own purposes, not your own self-aggrandizement.
As they gathered in front of police headquarters, they went down on one knee and asked police to join them. Several of the officers did just that. I heard one of the officers say, "We hear you."
We need to send a message that we are frustrated with what is happening in terms of how another violent death has taken place, and it has impacted all of us around the world.
Mayor Eric Garcetti came out and also kneeled. The crowd kept interrupting him, saying he should cut the police department's budget.
I hear you. I hear what you are saying about the police.
He told the crowd the system has to change.
Law enforcement is not where we need to see more dollars. We need to see dollars that take people off the streets, that lift up their futures, that give them jobs.
These protesters say they're taking back the streets to send out a positive message of love.
We must continue to protest and demand justice, but also it must be a message of peace as well. We can't afford any destruction and violence in our city. That goes against everything that we're standing for.
Something, not peaceful. We called them out.
I'm back live now to Grand Park, where you can see it is quiet, it is peaceful.
Or pepper spray us or shoot us with 40mm rubber
Clock, and it appears all the people who were here decided that this is what they wanted to do because.
So that's what I want. I just want everyone to be safe. And
Carlos Granda, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Carlos, thank you very much. Yeah, a lot of people abiding by the curfews, I'm sure, right there as well. Another night of curfews, many parts of Southern California, some already in effect. In Los Angeles County, the curfew is set to take place in less than an hour. The county curfew goes from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. tomorrow. Both Santa Monica and Beverly Hills right now in a curfew. Those will end at 5:30 tomorrow morning. And in Orange County, a curfew will take place in Garden Grove at 6 p.m. and continue until 5 a.m.
What the curfew does really is allow police to find the bad actors. If the folks who abide by the curfew are off the streets, it's much more likely the police will find people who have been intent on causing harm and scoop them up. And that's what they've been doing in the last couple of nights. There's about 52 minutes left now until the curfew begins in Los Angeles, as we look live again at Hollywood Boulevard, where a number of people have gathered. There were National Guard troops for a while, but I believe those troops are behind them now. And again, another peaceful protest, an expression of pain and outrage over the death of George Floyd and so many others. And it is continuing now, and that is the message that is being given out.
Absolutely. Well, let's go to our Orange County reporter, Tony Cabrera. He is live in Brea, where protesters have gathered. Tony?
Colleen, Mark, we have gone the distance with these protesters today as we're following what moves they make. They started here at the intersection of Brea Boulevard and Birch. This is where the restaurants are, the shops, the very famous part of town where people come from out of town to visit. They started there, they started making their way towards Imperial, they walked back and forth, and then they went to City Hall. And we saw that moment if you were with us earlier. It was just, wow, a dramatic moment as they were there on their knees, and in silence in front of those officers at Brea Police Department at City Hall. And then now the leader encouraged everybody to make their way back here or disperse if they needed to. That was kind of like the official ending of the protest. But here we are back where we started, this intersection. And I want to bring in some guys who I've been talking to. They painted a poster, a Black Lives Matter poster. Tell me about this.
Well, grab the canvas that I had lying around. I do paintings from time to time, and this is the perfect opportunity to use it. I actually just painted it up black, brought it outside, and spray painted Black Lives Matter. And it actually makes a very convenient sign to hold because it's got framing in the back of it, so we can hold it high, hold it proud.
Well, besides all of that, those three words, what do those three words mean to you?
It means that it's time for people to realize that people should not be killed for the color of their skin. It's unacceptable, and it needs to stop, and that's why we're here.
And what do you hope happens after this, after all of this, after all this walking, after all the chants, after the signs, and then being there in front of police? What's next?
I think there's a variety of routes. People need to get out and vote. Legislators need to put laws in place, and police need to start reforming so that they don't kill people because of the color of their skin. It's pretty simple.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, and here we are again. As more people arrive to this intersection, the honking of the horns, this has been happening since before 1 o'clock this afternoon when it started. And you see the scene still here as the sun begins to start to go down here in the city of Brea. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Tony, thank you very much. You've had some wonderful interviews there. We are learning about a protest outside Mayor Garcetti's home right now. Of course, we will bring you the latest details on that as soon as we receive them. Now to a disturbing arrest overnight. An armed man was taken into custody, allegedly posing as a member of the National Guard. Law enforcement sources, they're telling us the suspect is 31-year-old Gregory Wong. Those sources say he took an Uber to downtown LA, geared up in National Guard attire with an assault rifle. He then fell into formation with real National Guard troops. Some of those troops noticed him, called LAPD officers over. The arrest was made at about 1:30 this morning. Sources telling us Wong is a former guardsman who wanted to join in the fun. His rifle was a ghost gun, a homemade weapon without a serial number. Wong is currently being held on $50,000 bond.
Well, not all of the protests over this last several days have been peaceful. Of course, we've been showing you that. A Marine Corps veteran says he was seriously injured by police during Saturday's protest in the Fairfax district. Eyewitness News reporter Eileen Frere spoke to him earlier today about how he's doing.
C.J. Montano says his vision is improving as he recovers in the hospital. The Marine Corps veteran's injury suffered during what started as a peaceful protest Saturday in the Fairfax district, following the in-custody death of George Floyd in Minneapolis.
People were walking up and down the streets, and then things kind of escalated when police showed up.
Montano says other protesters started throwing things at police. He says he put himself in between officers and protesters. He says he kept his hands up.
I tried to, show I was being peaceful I was even talking to some of the police, telling them I would walk over to people to try to get them to stop throwing stuff if they didn't shoot me.
Montano says police shot him with rubber bullets, hitting him in the stomach, the chest. He fell down twice but got up. Then he was hit in the face.
I'm on blood thinners, so I started losing blood pretty bad.
He says unidentified people then helped him.
And then this one gentleman, I don't even know his name, he carried me I had my arm around him, carried me like a block away.
It is the same night that looters broke into a nearby Nordstrom store at the Grove Shopping Center and an LAPD kiosk was set on fire. Montano says he was part of the original protest because everyone deserves equality and justice.
I'm not trying to go out there to harm anyone or bring a bad name to police officers, but I'm trying to bring good to the people that deserve it.
We did reach out to LAPD for comments. So far, we have not heard back. Eileen Frere, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
The Pasadena branch of the NAACP is teaming up with several community leaders for a vigil to remember the life of George Floyd. Eyewitness News reporter Leanne Suter is live with a look at what's happening tonight. Leanne.
Mark, a moving protest here in Pasadena, and I mean that literally. Take a look behind me here. We have hundreds of cars lined up here in Pasadena. They are now making their way from the First AME Church up here in the northern part of Pasadena. They are going to be driving throughout the city, many people carrying signs, they're honking their horns in solidarity, all in a show of support, all in support of the George Floyd and the call to end racism. Everyone here carrying, again, you can just see, it's just been amazing to see. You can look down the street here, I want to show you. We literally have seen more than 200 cars doing this. So they're going to drive through the city, make their way to City Hall, where they're going to have a service. But they say this is the best way to make their voices heard, because they're able to do it in a peaceful way. They're able to reach so much of the city, they say, as they canvass through neighborhoods, trying to get as much support as they can. Organizers say it really is the best way to try to make a change.
If we just let the destructive behavior, be what comes out, then we lose a lot. And this is one of the most cherished values that we have in our society, protesting. And we have to save it now to make sure that there is justice.
Pasadena has a long history of activism. We're proud of our diversity in this community, and that means that when things like this happen, we need to invest in it, and we need to speak up.
You can hear all the excitement here, everybody joining together, making their voices heard. We saw quite a few people joining on foot as well, and some on their bikes. It appears the entire community is coming out, but I'm really impressed with the turnout here. As I said, at least 200 cars lined up. We've seen dozens of them going by, but this line of vehicles stretches all the way down Raymond here. They're going to turn around and then head through the city. So truly a really moving tribute as they all push for justice here in the city of Pasadena. Live in Pasadena, Leanne Suter, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Leanne, thank you very much. Well, speaking of a very large turnout, let's go back to Air 7 HD. You can see a large crowd turning out for this majority peaceful walk through Hollywood. They're over Hollywood and Sycamore. Earlier today, there were several branches of protesters kind of walking in different locations, and it looked like they were going to merge together and try to get to the LAPD Hollywood division. But again, we're watching them as they make their way through the streets of Hollywood. We know we have about 45 minutes until the curfew is set to take place. We saw live images from Carlos Granda earlier, where at Grand Park there were thousands and thousands of people who turned out to protest, a very peaceful protest, and they've all dispersed. They seem like they're abiding by the curfew set in place for LA County that begins at 6 p.m. But again, you're watching a very large group of people making their way through Hollywood. Again, this is Hollywood and Sycamore area. And again, earlier when we were speaking with them, they didn't exactly know how they were going to navigate through to get to their destination, and no word if they're actually going to end up being at that LAPD Hollywood division on Wilcox.
On Wilcox. Well, just continue as they're going and take a ride on Wilcox, I guess, but we'll see. Veronica Miracle live in Hollywood now with more from her vantage point. Veronica, how are things going?
Yeah, sorry about that. A lot going on here. Actually, an organizer, hey, you're an organizer here. I hear you talking to people, telling them to go home. What are you doing?
Well, we're trying to make sure that folks get home on time because of the fact that, if people are out past curfew, they are going at people that are out past curfew in groups. And so we want to make sure that, A, we can continue to use our First Amendment right, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to organize and assemble. We want to make sure people get home safe so we can do this again. Because at the end of the day, in a democracy, we're supposed to come out peacefully protesting, fighting for our freedom. And so I don't care what anybody else is saying. Up in the White House, and yes, President Trump, I'm talking to you. Up in the White House, you should be defending us. You should be defending our right to peacefully protest, because Second Amendment is not the only important one. There's a first one before that, and that's the freedom of speech, assembly, and press.
Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. And on the other side of the coin, you were just telling me that what happened here with you?
I had been walking for about 2 hours, with the protest, peacefully, beautiful, everybody beautiful. Took my bike, was trying to go home because I don't want to be out after curfew. And these cops, beat one person down, and I tried to say, hey, what are you guys doing? And they're just coming. And you can see them down that way. They're coming, and they're going to box us in.
This is not the National Guard you're talking about.
This is LAPD, and the guy threw me down, threw my bike down. I got a stick in the chest. And it's just, there's no reason for it. This is totally peaceful. And, they're coming. This is going to get ugly. I mean,
really hope it doesn't get to that.
I'm going home. I got a wife and 2 kids. All right, I'm going home. But beware, if you're out after 6 o'clock, they're coming.
Thank you so much for your time. Get home safely. It's interesting he says that because yesterday at 6 o'clock, arrests were made. I mean, they are not messing around when it comes to curfew. So I imagine that if this crowd doesn't disperse, there could be some confrontations. We really hope it doesn't get that way, though, because everything has been peaceful that we have seen all afternoon. Send it back to you guys.
All right, some 2,000 people arrested so far for curfew violations alone in Los Angeles, Veronica, so we will see what happens. All right, we have been placed on notice. LAPD moving in that direction, 40 minutes till curfew. We know this is a complicated issue. We want to give you a chance to make your voice heard, too. We're talking to as many people as we can. Head to abc7.com. Tell us why you protest. Tell us about your business if you can. If you're worried about your business or your own safety, you can upload a video or picture or write us a paragraph. We hope to share some of your responses on the air and online.
The mother of George Floyd's 6-year-old daughter, Gianna, spoke out today in Minneapolis, very emotional with Gianna at her side. Roxy Washington said she wanted people to know that George Floyd was a good, loving father, very involved in his daughter's life.
He will never see her grow up, graduate. He will never walk down the aisle. If it's a problem she's having and she needs her dad, she does not have that anymore.
The state of Minnesota has filed a human rights complaint against the Minneapolis Police Department. That could be a first step toward a consent decree and significant changes in the department.
We want to update you as well on the coronavirus situation, lest we forget. That is still going on, and it is still a factor here. Taking a look at the latest numbers on the coronavirus across Southern California, LA County reporting another 60 deaths and more than 1,200 new cases today. And across the 5 counties combined, we have surpassed now 3,000 deaths and 78,000 total cases. You'll want to check ahead of time before going to any COVID-19 drive-through testing sites around LA County. Some are temporarily closed because of the recent civil unrest. Others are keeping limited hours. There are 33 of them in all. In the city of LA, the sites at Dodger Stadium's Gate B and the Crenshaw Christian Center are the only ones that will be open tomorrow. Anyone with an appointment at a closed location in the city should go to Dodger Stadium.
As protesters gather in large groups, doctors and public health officials are now raising the alarm about COVID spreading among the crowds. Will it impact the progress we have made so far in flattening that curve? Circle of Health reporter Denise Dedore takes a look.
I can't breathe!
Chanting,
I don't like what's happening, brother.
clashing,
No justice, no peace.
close contact and COVID-19, a dangerous combination. Epidemiologists watching it unfold describe the large, unevenly masked groups as an uncontrolled experiment in disease spread.
All the efforts we made to flatten that surge, I hope it doesn't go to waste.
The director of infectious disease at Dignity Health California Hospital says being outdoors helps, but the proximity, activity, and the length of exposure increases the likelihood of transmission.
When you shout and scream, you propel the secretions more because you are putting more effort. People getting together, people so close to each other, and I'm sure nobody was washing their hands frequently.
Dr. Suman Radhakrishna says it takes up to 2 weeks for people to show symptoms. Many can go on to become asymptomatic. For this reason, mayors in cities across the country are encouraging people to get tested.
If you were out protesting last night, you probably need to go get a COVID test this week.
More than a dozen testing sites are closed due to demonstrations, but you can still sign up at LA County's website for a free appointment.
By next week, if we start to see more cases, then perhaps we can attribute it to this.
There's a lot of risk at these gatherings becoming super spreader events.
Public health officials offer safe ways for you to express your political views. Those include in-car protests, staying 6 feet apart at limited gatherings with masks, and using online methods to demonstrate ways to protect your freedom of speech and your health.
I agree and wholeheartedly support, but let's do it right.
Denise Tador, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Let's take you live now. This is Hancock Park, specifically the Windsor Square area of Hancock Park, to be specific. And our ground crew is there. This is the official residence of the mayor of Los Angeles, Getty House, and people have gathered there demonstrating. The call from many here has been to defund or take funding away from the LAPD. There is also a lot of anger at the chief of police, Michael Moore, for some comments he made yesterday regarding the death of George Floyd, saying the people who are breaking the law have his death on their hands. A lot of people taking exception to that. He later apologized for that statement. The mayor also helping to try to walk that statement back. Folks have gathered here, and again, of course, they've got about 35 minutes to leave the area and get off the streets of Los Angeles. So we will see if that in fact happens. There's a large contingent of LAPD there guarding the residents. The mayor, we are told, is actually at City Hall. We don't know if the mayor's family is at Getty House, but we will, I don't know if we'll ever find that out. That's probably not something that they would release given the number of people that are outside. But there is this demonstration, and we'll have to see what happens when the 6 o'clock hour comes around, and whether police, whether the people will disperse, whether they will be encouraged and or forced to do so by the assembled police. We'll be covering it on ABC7.
Absolutely, and we are awaiting a press conference at about 6 o'clock from Mayor Eric Garcetti. You're looking at a live image right now from Air 7 HD over Hollywood, where we have seen thousands of people walking the streets. It looks like people are actually trying to make their way home. And this is a much smaller crowd than we have seen over the last few hours. I think they started just after 11 a.m. and they have been peaceful for the most part, and they have been very, very much unified in their message, and they just have been making their way. Again, all signs sort of pointed to the many different groups sort of converging at the LAPD Hollywood division, and again, we will continue to monitor where they're going. If they are going to start abiding by the curfew, which goes into effect in just under 35 minutes from now. But again, it does look like a much, much smaller crowd that is marching through the streets of Hollywood.
The applause, oh, sorry, go ahead.
You know.
Oh, it's me, all right. The applause you're hearing here is for a Washington, D.C. homeowner who sheltered about 6 protesters inside his house overnight. Rahul Dubey welcomed them in as they fled from police just before the 7 o'clock curfew there. He tells reporters he followed his instincts. One demonstrator says Dubey's actions saved lives. They gave him a round of applause when the curfew was lifted at 6 a.m.
And instead of making arrests, police in Fort Worth, Texas took a knee and prayed with protesters last night. Here you can see Chief Ed Krause in the middle of the crowd. He told his officers to back off, even though about 100 protesters were out after curfew. After that, the protesters dispersed. The chief says it was a good step and that he hopes to build on that foundation. And we want to, again, certainly thank you for joining us during our coverage of watching everyone kind of march through the streets and in solidarity. And I'm Colleen Sullivan in for Michelle Tuzzi.
I'm Mark Brown. We are live right now on ABC7, ABC7.com, and streaming wherever you are on the ABC7 Los Angeles app. For the most part, the demonstrations against police brutality today have been peaceful. Eyewitness News reporter Sid Garcia gives us a look at the scene in Old Town Monrovia.
Organizers wanted a peaceful rally and march. About 200 marched along Little Avenue a few times. They didn't block traffic. They didn't cause any damage. They wanted to protest and get their message across without causing any problems.
It could be peaceful, and we have done it peacefully. and we could continue to be peaceful and bring awareness of Black Lives Do Matter.
We're not out here like looting, we're not out here breaking stuff, burning stuff. It's just a peaceful protest. So I think it's easier to get your point across if you're peaceful and you look like you actually care.
Some business owners came up to us and expressed their concerns over a protest like this, that it could bring in a bad element.
This has always been a peaceful town. My concern is with the coverage that this is getting, that the looters will come to this town. That is my concern.
As the crowd grew, demonstrators remained on the sidewalk in front of the library park, and then they'd march around Old Town Monrovia, again, not causing any problems. Organizers point out, look at the diversity of the crowd that's here.
If you're in a car and you want to move, you can't stay in neutral. You got to go drive or you're going to do reverse. You're going to do either or. So I'm really impressed with the young people and the diversity of the marchers.
And the organizers got exactly what they wanted, a very peaceful rally here in Monrovia. I'm Sid Garcia, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Another demonstration around Cal State Northridge today. You can see people marching there on the sidewalk and a little bit into the street carrying signs. At one point, some staged a sit-in in the street. Police were right there, but everything appeared to remain calm and cars were still able to get by.
And let's go back outside Mayor Eric Garcetti's residence in Hancock Park. You can see people are gathering there and protesting. I believe this is Commander Polka, who took a knee yesterday. We spoke with him today. He came to our ABC 7 studios to talk about why he took a knee yesterday. I want to say it's Commander Corey Polka. And he suffered from coronavirus recently. He's been giving his plasma. Now he's out on the streets trying to keep the peace. Yesterday, he had a very poignant video that was captured with Veronica Miracle where he was talking to protesters. He says, you know, I'm going to take a knee. Can we promise together to work together? You guys are going to abide by the curfew. We're going to be here respecting everything. And everyone took a knee. And he really has been one of those figures throughout these last few days where he shows the compassion. We know we've spoken about it, but George Floyd's death and the manner in which he was killed is definitely not a reflection of all law enforcement. And he is certainly trying to make sure he keeps the peace, and he's been talking to everyone. I'm not sure. Anyway, so this protest is happening outside Mayor Garcetti's house, Getty House in Hancock Park, and we know that Mayor Garcetti has a planned press conference at 6 o'clock, so of course we will take it live when the mayor starts addressing us. But again, this crowd, peaceful, yet it does seem like it's getting larger. Since we first looked at it about 10 to 15 minutes ago, it seems like it's growing in size. But again, it's very peaceful. People are just standing there, and we'll continue to follow this protest that's outside the mayor's house.
We're going to see if Corey Polka, like yesterday, he had the bullhorn and addressed the crowd, and that was quite a moment, as you described. We don't know if he's planning to do that today, to maybe encourage the assembled crowd to leave and go home and abide by the curfew. We don't know yet, but we will see. I mean, he has gained we presume some notoriety as that video went everywhere. And his name was already, to some degree, known because of the news coverage of his recovery from COVID-19. He's an imposing figure, too. I didn't realize he was so tall. He's a big man. He's towering over the other officers. And he, of course, as you mentioned, Colleen, survived COVID-19, was in the hospital for a number of weeks, got out, and immediately started donating plasma to help others who were suffering with the disease. He is a commander, I'm not sure which division, I should know this actually, and I've got his bio up here. It says here he was a student athlete, and he attended West LA Community College. Doesn't say what his athletic specialty was, but he's the commander, and he's assigned to the Operations West Bureau, so this is his area, and he's the assistant commanding officer, so he would be under a deputy chief, I believe, at his rank, so he's about 2 levels down from chief of police, and he is in charge of a lot of people. and being in charge of operations. At West Bureau, there are a number of officers that are under his command, and they are all here, many of them here, dealing with this situation, the crowd that's assembled outside Getty House.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been interesting to see how the police and how the for the most part, non-violent protesters, they are standing, they are unified in what their message has been. We have to all work together, and they are very aware of that. We did hear Chief Michael Moore say that they are working to implement new protocols. They definitely need more community input as well. But again, now we do have a follow-up to that very poignant moment. Our cameras did capture yesterday, surrounded by protesters. It happened on Sunset Boulevard. And here's what happened when LAPD commander chose to take his knee.
If I take a kneel with you guys, will you give me your verbal acknowledgement that this is a peaceful matter? Everybody down! We stand together. Okay, thank you. You know, with the next 30 to 40 minutes, you peacefully go about returning back to where you came from with the same honor you came here. I will give you my commitment and honor that you will not see police officers in front of you. Fair enough?
Both sides kept their promise. Most protesters left before curfew. That was yesterday. We were able to talk to Commander Corey Polka today about why he chose to do that.
It was just an opportunity for me to speak on behalf of the LAPD, to speak on behalf of the community and the people I know, and just to remind everybody that we are in this together. And though we wear uniforms and we may be across skirmish lines, that behind this badge is a working heart, an empathetic heart, an understanding heart, and human beings who have families who care about our community, who care about our city, and who want to serve. And that was my intent, to deliver the message, to break bread, to put my hand out and establish peace, in hopes that it would be an expression of freedom of speech and an opportunity to show their frustration and their anger as protected by the Constitution.
And on that note, about that officer, Polka, he did survive coronavirus. He has donated his plasma to help others.
Let's take a live picture now from Air 7 HD. This is on, is it on Sunset Boulevard here? Let's see which, I think it was Sunset. I believe that is, yes, Sunset Boulevard. We had a report of some cars out in the middle of the street doing donuts out in the middle of the street. So there's no absolute end to misbehavior, but as you can see here, that was a few people and a few vehicles. They're not there now, and what we're seeing instead is an orderly group of people marching down Sunset Boulevard. We don't know if they're continuing their march or if they are trying to get home at this point, because they've got about 23 minutes before they'll be in violation of curfew if they are out on the streets of LA. It looks like they're heading east on Sunset Boulevard. Yeah, there's the tire marks in the intersection from the cars that were doing the donuts. If they're still trying to get to the police station, and what street are they? That's Vista, and that's Sunset and Vista, Sunset and Martel. They got a little ways to go before they get to Wilcox and can turn right on that street. And they're getting there though, if that's their intention, but they won't be able to spend much time there in front of the police station, because they are running out of time to get off the street before curfew. But again, the marching does continue, and you're seeing people of all races, of all ages marching.
Yeah, absolutely. We have seen this crowd, though, much larger earlier for hours. They were going through, they have been walking. I am sure some of these people started with this march, and to know that they have been marching for a good part of 6 hours, 7 hours, they're going to be tired. I'm sure they want to get to their destination at least. So I'm sure some will be picking up the cadence there on their walks. But again, it's been, for the most part, peaceful and lively and vibrant, and music playing, and so anyway, we do know that that curfew is quickly approaching. Here, you're looking at live images from Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard. And we also know that Tony Cabrera, he's been in Brea, where he has had some really remarkable interviews today with people who are saying why they are out today. Tony?
Mark, Colleen, absolutely. It has been incredible out here at Brea Boulevard and Birch. You can see the protesters still on each corner. I will say it has dwindled in size, but it has stayed loud, and you can hear them. Their voices being heard. I do want to interview a gentleman here because I turned and I look, and he was taking photos, and he says he's 65, he's over 65, he has a health issue. But you were talking about COVID-19 is the body, but racism is the soul?
This problem is about our soul. COVID-19 is about our body. So this is bigger than COVID-19. That's why I'm here.
Wow. And you take photos, you've gone to a number of protests throughout history to document them with your camera?
Yeah, well, many. Trayvon Martin, Occupy LA, Occupy Hong Kong, and the Women's March. I was traveling for a month, and so I wasn't here during the election, but the next day I came back to LA. I went to the Women's March rally.
So you got more pictures from this one. Thank you so much for talking with us. Take care to you. I do want to also talk to another group of people. I found this group of people. I turned and I looked, and I said, wait a minute. I saw a lot of different colors when I turned, okay?
Rainbow Coalition over here. Okay. United Nations.
Yes, I mean, tell me, to be surrounded by all of these different races, how does that make you feel?
It's a dream come true, to be honest, as an African American. I've never, ever experienced this in my life, to be surrounded by all types of people, all diverse type of people who are actually coming and standing for me. I can't tell you how moving that is. It makes me want to cry. I'm literally in shock.
Wow. And to look across the street and to look across the nation and see this.
Yes.
I mean.
Listen. Let me be real. Black people have been fighting this fight for so long. Black people have been fighting this fight for 400 years, okay? This is not new to us. But what is new is all the support we're getting from every other race, every other country, every other continent. That's what's new.
You said it right there. Well, that is incredible perspective right there. And this gentleman sitting next to you, tell me, after hearing that, I mean, wow, what's your response?
Okay, so what I got from the Holy Spirit, because I'm a Christian, when she was saying that, when you asked her the question, how does it feel to be out here and to see this? What makes me feel, it feels grateful to see all these beautiful people who were created in the image of God, standing for love and standing for justice.
Yes!
But I do want to say that there will only be true justice when Jesus Christ comes.
I heard
that. He is justice.
That's real.
He died for our sins.
Yes.
He is the way, the truth, and the life.
Yes.
But I am grateful to see all these people created in His image, standing for love and standing for justice, for unity.
Can I say something from a spiritual point?
Yes, real quick here.
Real quick. Spiritually, this is not just a social battle. Yes, we need systematic transformation, but this is a spiritual battle. We need repentance. I have a message for white America. We need repentance, humility. Take a knee, because this is how we begin to have racial reconciliation in this country right now.
There you go. Thank you so much for sharing. Look at that. I mean, it's just, we've heard so many voices from so many different people, different backgrounds, different religions. I mean, it has been quite the day here in Brea as we've walked with them down the street. We walked with them to City Hall, to police headquarters, and it's remained peaceful, it's remained nonviolent as they get their message across. Back to you.
Well, Tony, it appears we've reached a moment here. This is one of those inflection points maybe in history, and what we're seeing here, it does sound different, it does look different than things have looked in the past, and the question now is, what do we do with that, and are we going to march forward? Maybe ABC7 will be here, of course, to help you and to record what is done. We spoke with LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva during our 4 o'clock newscast. He spoke out about his reaction to seeing the George Floyd video.
I was horrified, appalled, sick to the stomach, and if you look at it symbolically, just the image of a white peace officer with his neck or his knee on the neck of a black man who was already handcuffed. There's no other way to describe that. Is, you know, it definitely is against everything that we represent.
Has that technique ever been taught in your department, to put the knee on the back of somebody's neck?
Absolutely never. That is a vital organ, the neck. It compromises the breathing system. In addition to the central nervous system and all the damage that could affect, there is absolutely no business whatsoever. In fact, our force options chart precludes the use of anything that touches the neck unless you're in a life and death struggle, which was not the case here, clearly.
Very, very powerful and sobering information from LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva. Now let's go over to live images right now. This is over Hancock Park. Boy, this crowd has grown. This really was very small at the very beginning of this newscast. It was small, and it just keeps growing in numbers. We do know there is a curfew, again, that's been put in place for 6 o'clock. I know a lot of people are trying to abide by that curfew. It'd be a shame to see a lot of people arrested because they are out past the curfew. But again, people are outside Mayor Eric Garcetti's residence at the Getty House in Hancock Park to sort of voice their concerns and be in solidarity against police brutality. Again, this crowd has grown quite a bit in the last, at least in the last, I don't know, half hour since we've been on it.
Right, in the last hour or so, half hour since we've been covering the story, and other stations, we presume, are also covering the story. We presume that word has gotten out, and some people have clearly come into the area. Again, the curfew begins at 6 o'clock, and the question becomes, how will the demonstrators deal with it? How will the police deal with it? We want to emphasize this has been peaceful. It is peaceful, but by definition, it will be an illegal assembly in 13 minutes and 45 seconds to be exact. And then the question becomes, how will everyone involved react? Because that is where tensions have risen. That is where sometimes things get, miscues happen. That is where problems can occur. So the hope is that that won't happen, that things will be peaceful and remain so, that everybody, cooler heads on both sides of the skirmish line, will prevail. And but hope is not a strategy, so we'll be here to cover it and let you know what happens.
Absolutely. Well, let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Leanne Suter. She is live in Pasadena with more on the situation there. Leanne.
Hi, you guys. This has turned into a huge protest, very peaceful and very moving. It has been so interesting to see, and I mean that literally, because there have been hundreds of cars that gathered for this tribute. They started in the north area of Pasadena. Take a look behind me here. You can see them now. They are all starting to move in and fill in the front area here around Pasadena City Hall. That line of vehicles stretched for at least 3 blocks. We are guessing you probably have 200 to 300 vehicles alone. Then the crowd of supporters and protesters and demonstrators that have all turned out here. You can see many of them carrying their signs, Black Lives Matter, and demand justice for all. It certainly has been very interesting to see everyone gathering here in a huge show of support. Now they're going to have some speakers here. This is all being put on by the NAACP as well as the National Day Laborers Organization. And we're seeing all kinds of folks, lots of families. I see young kids out here as well as lots of teenagers. And again, very, very peaceful. And it's so interesting to see how many vehicles they're allowing to come in and to just show. But that line of cars, I was just amazed when I saw how many people turned out to do this. Such a unique way to do this protest. All of the cars kind of meandering through the city, honking their horns, yelling George Floyd's name. It really has been interesting to see. Joining me now is Mark. Mark, are you a resident of Pasadena as well?
Yes, I am.
Tell me about this for you guys. Why did you decide to bring the whole family out tonight?
Well, we got an invitation from a local church, and we wanted to come see what it's all about. We definitely want to see the police brutality end in every city in every city in America.
And I see you brought the whole family. All the daughters are here with you guys. How important is it that you bring them out to something like this?
I really wanted them to see it so that they can understand what's going on in society today. It's a very important piece of history right now in America.
We've seen a lot of these protests going on. This one, it looks like it's very peaceful to begin with. Are you hoping that is how it will continue? And do you feel like that will make the message even stronger if it remains that way? How are you feeling about kind of some of the things you're seeing when others come in and they take a turn?
Yeah, I really think that it needs to be peaceful. I think a peaceful protest or gathering can be very effective in creating change.
Something, obviously, I'm going to guess you're going to say we need desperately and need it now.
We definitely do. We definitely need some change. There's a lot of good police enforcement out there, but then there's also some that is just excessive, and we need to put an end to it.
Got it. Thank you very much. Would you guys? I want to know what you think. I mean, coming out to see something like this, your first kind of big protest?
Yes, this is my first time coming to a protest. I'm proud to be doing it in the city that I've been raised in my whole life, and I'm proud that it's been peaceful so far. So
much for your time, you guys. I appreciate it. Again, a huge showing of demonstrators out here in Pasadena. Really good to see everyone united in the cause. And as the mayor said, they're hoping that they will finally see some change. Live here in Pasadena, Leanne Suter, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Leanne, thank you very much for that live report. We were just saying it sounds like a fun party out there with all that music. Now let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Veronica Miracle. Veronica, you are live in Hollywood.
Well, Colleen, it's interesting because the crowd was huge before, and we were thinking that it was thinning out as 6 o'clock approaches, as the curfew approaches, but it looks like more people are just kind of hunkering down, staying here. We're about 10 minutes away from the curfew, and we saw last night people were rounded up and arrested pretty immediately. They've taken over the intersection here at Sunset and Vine. People are on their cars. They're sitting here in the middle of the intersection. I think I hear a motorcycle burning out possibly. Hey, are you going to stay here past curfew? Are you going to stay past curfew? What's the plan?
I'm not staying past curfew. I'm out here peaceful protesting with all my people, with all my friends. We're out here just trying to make a message, trying to bring attention to all the systemic racism that's going on with policing in America. It needs to stop at the core. We're out here peacefully doing our thing. We're not trying to cause any type of trouble. So that's all we're doing.
So 10 minutes from now, you guys are all going to be gone, you think?
I don't know. I can't speak for everybody else. I can speak for me. I'm going to be following the rules. I'm following the laws, but I don't know what everybody else is doing. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of hate that's going on right now, and we need to overcome that. So we're out here, peace and love to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen such a great showing out here.
Yeah.
Do you feel like today really is making some change?
I feel like not just today, I feel like all week. We're in the perfect storm right now. This is the perfect storm. There's a pandemic going on. We have this situation going on where you have 3 incidences back to back to back. You have a president who's cowering in the White House when this country needs him the most. Okay? And you have everybody out of work. So it's the perfect storm. People wouldn't be protesting it like this if it was in the winter. If it was cold. The weather's nice, so everybody's out here doing their thing.
And we're in a pandemic.
But listen, it needs to be done. It needs to be done. It needs to be said.
Okay. Thanks for your time, sir. Appreciate it. All right, so as you can see, we're kind of awaiting to see what happens as the curfew hits. We'll be here in Hollywood, and we'll bring you the latest. Back to you guys.
Okay, from Hollywood, we go back to Hancock Park, specifically the Windsor Square area. The Getty House, the official residence of the mayor of Los Angeles, owned by the city but lived in by the mayor, and that is where a number of protesters have gathered, and the numbers have grown, as Colleen mentioned, throughout the afternoon and into the evening now. With some 7 minutes left to go into curfew, I don't see anybody walking away from the mayor's residence right now. We do see the LAPD there, and in particular, we did see also among the officers was Commander Corey Palka. who yesterday managed to form a bond, if you will, some solidarity with the demonstrators as he took a knee on Sunset Boulevard yesterday outside the Laugh Factory. Many people, specifically the folks here who are demonstrating, African-American men in particular, are feeling strong emotions in the wake of George Floyd's death. Some are having difficulty dealing with those intense feelings.
And that's where a local professor and psychologist steps in. Eyewitness News reporter Jessica DeNova introduces us.
What do we want? Justice! Continued oppression, history repeating itself. Dr. Michael Laurent says that's why demonstrators are taking to the streets, why more people are coming to him for help.
This whole week, my phone has been blowing up. And people are just coming out and they're trying to de-escalate. They're trying to come down.
Dr. Laurent is a professor and psychologist at Cal State Dominguez Hills. There, he has a support group for African American men, 30 years running.
They don't know what to do because they're at a point where they're going to pop, where their anxiety and their depression, and they don't know how to deal with being targeted.
Families begging grown men to stay home, afraid their husband, father will be attacked because of the color of his skin. Laurent says it's a reality for black men, one he lives daily. Laurent finding group therapy is best when it comes to African American men. Mentorship also a healthy outlet for this traumatizing experience.
They work better in group programs. There's something about the brotherhood or something about the camaraderie or the unity.
But the psychologist says the trauma and unrest coming after the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police is so great, improved access to counseling is necessary.
We're just going to have to just blow this thing up to a point where we're going to have hotlines like we did for the pandemic. You know, we're going to have different types of chat groups.
Dr. Laurent says he's currently working on just that, a hotline or chat group where members of his support group can help others in their community deal with this trauma. Jessica DeNova, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
And Rob Fukuzaki joins us now with sports live from his home. A couple of household names speak out on what's been going on. Rob.
That's right, Mark. I'll tell you something, a number of athletes and sports figures have expressed their opinions on what has happened recently. Tonight we hear from two NBA Hall of Famers who happen to be two of the greatest Lakers of all time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson.
These young people of all races, not just black people, are out there. All race of people are out there, and they're showing their power and they're letting their voice be heard. Now they have to do the same thing in November when the election comes around.
There's been a lot of talk about how horrible the rioting and looting is. That is no way to demonstrate it. But people should think about the fact that Colin Kaepernick tried to demonstrate peacefully. What did he get? He got ostracized. He lost his job. He was blackballed.
I don't think that this is going to go away anytime soon until we see that George Floyd's murder, that police officer is found guilty of that murder.
Who are our fellow Americans? They come in all sizes and shapes and colors and religious faiths, but for the most part, they all believe in this wonderful experiment that is called the United States of America. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that is the strength that will help us get through these horrible times.
Meantime, two Minnesota Viking linebackers have criticized the NFL for its reaction to the mass protests throughout the country. Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr both played at UCLA. They're on the Vikings Social Justice Committee. The league said in a statement it was important to address these systemic issues. Kendricks and Barr both tweeted, quote, "Your league is built on black athletes. Vague answers do nothing." And coming up around 6:20, we will share with you what head coach of the Chargers, Anthony Lynn, told the LA Times. He vented, he didn't hold back as he joined one of the protests over the weekend. We'll have that for you coming up shortly. Back to you in the studio. Interesting.
All right, Rob, thank you very much. And we have some breaking news. Protesters outside the house of LA Mayor Eric Garcetti. This is Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock. I'm Ellen Leyva.
I'm David Ona. This is Eyewitness News at 6 Live, ABC7, streaming live from the ABC7 Los Angeles app and ABC7.com. The growing crowd demanding that the city of Los Angeles defund the police department. So we have been watching that crowd basically stand still and in place and grow in some respects in that Hancock Park neighborhood right in front of the Getty House is what we call it, which is traditionally the mayor's house.
And we've seen the protesters chanting and carrying signs, "Care, not cops," hashtag People's Budget, calling for the mayor to defund the LAPD or take away funding and repurpose them for people in the community in need.
And we are waiting for the mayor to actually speak. He's not going to speak from his home. We don't believe he is there. We think he's going to speak to the community from City Hall. We're waiting for that press conference to happen at any second. But it is interesting and somewhat ironic that we are watching images in front of the mayor's house, yet he will speak to us from a different location.
Yes, he's watching it as well. One of the largest protests we saw today was in Hollywood.
And that's where we find out with news reporter Veronica Miracle. She's live where curfew is about to go into effect. Veronica, what are they doing?
Well, I can tell you it's starting to get a little crazy out here. You know, people are burning their tires. And not looking like they're going home. Fireworks being lit off. Sorry, I'm a little jolty. Don't really want to move around too much right now. So here we are, and basically on curfew, and everyone is still here. So we are definitely going to be watching to see what happens in the coming minutes here. Hey guys, how do you feel like today's going? Can I talk to you? Can I ask you a couple questions? No? Okay. All right. Okay. We're gonna send it back to you guys.
Veronica, thank you.
Proud because we see
this is live with
our neighbors, our brothers and sisters, our fellow Americans, not only exercising their constitutional but their God-given right to share their life and their perspective, and to call in this moment for this country to pivot, for this country to do better, not for some Americans, but for all Americans. I felt a little cooped up today, so I went outside. I joined organizers on the streets of our city just outside here in City Hall. I know I'm the mayor, so I know some people would be happy to see me, and others might be upset at this moment and need to yell at me. And both of those things happen. That's part of what you do as a leader. You step forward to hear people's pain, to try to understand it and never dismiss it, and to try to offer more than a voice forward, but steps forward. To understand that peace isn't just built as a request, but it is earned when we embrace the idea of justice. Look, most of these briefings that you listen, and I don't know how long television stations will carry me tonight, they usually have a fire chief and a police chief and a city manager and city council members and mayors. They usually update you on what's happening in the city, and I think that's important, but you're getting that news every hour. I wish some of it were more the stories of everyday Angelenos marching who want to share what it means to have faced racism in their lives, and their allies who say this isn't just the work of Black Americans, but of white and Asian and Native and Latino Americans too. I wish we could hear those stories more. And so tonight I want to do something a little bit different. I want to talk from my heart to and about Black Angelenos and Americans. Because at the end of the day, this moment is first and foremost about whether we make a decision collectively, not just to answer the snuffing out of a life, the lynching of a man in Minneapolis, and the collective death that we have seen pile on and pile on and pile on until people wonder what Black lives mean, what Black bodies, whether they are valued. But to go deeper, to understand that this is a moment of opportunity and of hope and of change. I left the protests in the street after taking a knee, after praying, and after addressing the crowd. And I joined Reverend K.W. Tulis, who's the president of the Baptist Ministers Conference, my old friends, Pastor William Smart, Bishop Juan Carlos Mendez, and Pastor Michael Fisher Jr., who's here with me tonight, and many others. And before anybody who's friends with them say anything to them, they gave me a good, hard time. They were demanding about justice as everyone in America should be right now. And like so many others who were peacefully protesting, we need to hear those voices. And I want to lift one of those up tonight, and I would just ask, cut away when I come back if you need to, but I would ask our television stations to give the voice on the evening news to a young black male Angelino. Because at the end of the day, this story is about the pain that people carry the day that they are born from the traumas visited on their ancestors. And from the first moment, they're taller than a cute little boy, the way they're looked at in our society. And I'm going to ask a young man of faith and of inspiration who I met today, Davian Pilgrim, a 16-year-old student from Morningside High School, who told me his story. And I want you to hear his story, to talk about what this moment and this movement means. So Davian, thank you so much for being with us. This microphone in this city is yours.
Hi, my name is Davion Pilgrim, and I am 16 years old. First, I want to say thank you to Mayor Garcetti for giving me this opportunity to speak today, because I have a story to share. I was recently stopped by the police officers and racially and criminally profiled. I was accused of being associated with the gang. I thought that really hurt, because that's not me. I am a God-fearing young black man. I'm an athlete. I'm a president of the youth department at Greater Zion Church in Compton, under the leadership of Dr. Michael J.T. Fisher. I love God. That's why I believe in a change, and I have hope. The opportunities with the people of faith and have a conversation with the mayor today was hopeful. We want to make sure that what happens to George Floyd does not ever happen again to someone that just looks like me. Losing our lives to the police officers is one of the biggest fears that we have in South LA. I have 7 brothers and sisters, and I for surely don't want none of that to happen to them. This is a hard moment, but the good news is that there is still time for unity. And while I think we should keep protesting and demanding change, there is no need to loot and tear up things down. It is time for us to rebuild. Conversations are what we need. We need to talk to each other. We need to understand each other. The police needs to understand where we are coming from. It is my prayer, my deep prayer, that we come together in unity and we take a stand together in a time like this. We need to hold our officers accountable, and we must stay strong for change and for peace. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you, David. Thank you for the courage of this moment and for the courage of your generation. Justice is never given, it is earned. It is earned by the chapters we see written on the streets of our country, sometimes with people's bodies, and always with the courage that they have to move us forward. So here's the uncomfortable part tonight. It falls on leaders not to just say the right things, but to do the right things. After I left that meeting across the street with the leaders from Baptist community and the faith community, I came back and I listened to folks on my own team. I listened to a powerful young black man who said that it's tough to even work in government right now. Another member of my team who said every single time, even though he works for the mayor and carries a mayor's badge, when somebody rolls up behind him from law enforcement, it makes him shudder. And he's worried about whether reaching for that badge to reassure them might scare them more than just sitting there until he can explain who he is. I heard from April, who was doing the most amazing work housing Angelinos who are unhoused, and who's dealing with the pain of this moment by taking things to folks who are living in our shelters that we've set up. So she brought shoes to them, and all she could think about in her mind was, with a car full of shoes, will they think that I'm a looter? I want non-black Angelenos to hear those stories and to have those conversations. Have them in your workplace and in your neighborhood. Have them in your church and wherever you are. If we don't acknowledge that a black woman is 4 times more likely to die because she wants to bring a child into this world than a white woman, then we can't see that. If we don't see that if you're a black man in Los Angeles, you're 10 times more likely to be homeless than if you're a white man, we can't see that. And while not every death is as visible and as vicious as George Floyd's, we have to own those deaths that come from the diabetes and that come from COVID-19 and all of the things that visit black Americans disproportionately because of where they start life and where this society values their life. The schools that they are born into, in the neighborhoods where they live, that have been discarded and efforts to fund those schools rejected. The moments in which we see that racial justice can't be the work of 10% of a nation, it has to be the work of 100% of the nation. So to my fellow Angelenos, to my African American brothers and sisters who live in this city, I want to say, I hear you. And I hear that this isn't just about the criminal justice system. This is about also our society and where we put our resources. When we've done things like raise the minimum wage, and that disproportionately hits women and African Americans, we have to see those as important bricks in building this new house. When we do things like making community college free, that contributes to what we see with justice. But we also have from our budget, which is a moral document, which needs to keep people safe and protected. But the best way for people to be safe and protected, and I hear you on the street loud and clear, is not just by throwing dollars always into police departments, but also into youth programs and into educational opportunities and into trauma-based recovery for people who carry trauma. I don't have announcements tonight, but I want you to know that I've been having these conversations for the last 2 or 3 days. I'm having them with my fellow elected officials. I'm having them with community leaders. I'm having them with young people who are demanding that I and we collectively do better. That just as after the trauma of 1992, we emerged forward with saying never again to things like legalized chokeholds, which killed black men in this city. Never again to no independent investigations when there's acts of police brutality. And never again to many things, we must ask what are the never again moments today. And I look forward in the next day or two, and with mayors across the country who I've been having this conversation with, to make sure that we build from this moment, that we hear from this moment, that we fund from this moment, that we look at the prism of race in America as one of the greatest sins that we have had and one that stays with us, and that we can only get past when we all get past that together. That's my simple pledge to you tonight. As we look at what has been a safer day and a more beautiful day, I look forward to the day when we get rid of a curfew, when we don't have National Guard, when our police officers don't have their helmets on. And I want to make sure we can see the difference between people who are looting, and we will go after folks who break into businesses. We will go after people who are looting, or worse, causing violence against demonstrators or to peace officers. But let's put that here and not let that dominate what this moment and this movement is about. Because if we let that be the only image, if we let that be the only story, we are missing our opportunity, and this isn't going to go away soon. It will only go away when there is the trust that we are taking the actions to build a summer of peace this summer in Los Angeles and across the country, with jobs for young people, with peaceful places to be, with the mental health care that we need to deal with what that feels like day after day after day, to be a young black man who doesn't know why people don't trust him, look at him that way, feel that way every moment they inhabit a body. Somebody powerfully said to me today, I'm an ally, but at the end of the day, I can turn off my phone, I can stop looking at Twitter, I can watch some TV. But for my black brothers and sisters, they can't turn that off. They can't stop being black. They can't stop being seen by the racism that still pervades our country. There is so much work for us to do, and I am so proud of this city. I know that there's those who just want to focus on the law and order. And I know it is my responsibility to throw everything I have into peace, restoration, and building in this city. But that doesn't just happen from peace officers. That happens from our investments in communities and in neighborhoods. Whether or not we say to folks who have been involved in the criminal justice system, instead of, you're done with your time but there's no help, here's a job and here's a way forward. For us to look at what our fight with COVID-19 now is about. And please, 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 everybody who's been out there protesting so beautifully around Los Angeles, make sure you get tested and make sure you're maintaining your physical distance, that you're washing your hands and wearing a mask. Imagine if these days lead to a spread that leads to things getting worse and more people dying. Please go to coronavirus.lacity.org/testing and get a test. Not only did we have Dodger Stadium open, we're reopening the Crenshaw Christian Center site, 3 or 4 sites that can do thousands and thousands of tests to meet the capacity that we need, because we have to defeat that threat to us all, which does discriminate disproportionately against communities of color. Let me just take a breath to say, we aren't where we once were, but we aren't where we need to be. We're maybe stuck somewhere in the middle of the mountain in this nation and this city's history. If you're young, all you can see is up and how far we have to go to reach the peak. And you should be unyielding and demanding that we keep climbing. And for some of us who have been around, who have seen the changes, who have worked hard to bring about things like implicit bias training and de-escalation in our police force, or to look at the ways that summer night lights and our gang reduction youth development programs came out of demands from the community to say parks need to be places of peace for the summer and for our children, that helped us get up the mountain. And we can look down and see how far we've come. We have 2 choices, Los Angeles: either hopelessness, that this is a moment that can't be fixed, that America is so broken that we can't repair our hearts, and we can't repair our streets, and we can't bring peace to our lives. Or we have hope, the only thing that has ever guided this country, our city, and our world. We all know, or many of us know, the Negro National Anthem. And I want to quote from it. In the first verse it ends, "Sing us a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. And facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Tomorrow the sun will rise above Los Angeles. Tomorrow we have a choice to make. I have a choice to make. And I choose to listen and to move forward, to bring this city together, to build peace on our streets and in our neighborhoods, and to admit the country that we live in, that we love and that we want to see do better. George Floyd died in our America so that we may make sense of our future, to make sure that we never see that again, and that we do the work to carry the promise of this country and of our City of Angels forward. I celebrate you on the streets. If you're breaking the law, we will not let you change the message. And tomorrow, when a new sun comes, I hope that everybody in Los Angeles will embrace the work that we have to do together. Hopelessness is not our option. We only have hope, and we only have each other. With that, I'll be happy to answer questions.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Steve Gregory with KFI Radio on behalf of the LA Press Corps. Our first question comes from Cindy Chang at the LA Times. Mr. Mayor, do you still have confidence in Michael Moore after his remark about looters being as responsible for George Floyd's death as the police officers? Also, what are your thoughts about the remark? Moore seemed to walk it back, but then he spoke deliberately rather than making an off-the-cuff mistake. Also, what's your view of the tactics used by the police to contain the protests, including rubber bullets and batons?
Absolutely. Let me start with the second. I think that we've seen less of any of those tactics, and I hope that we can see the most minimal, if not zero, of those tactics. I know what it's like to see on those lines, to have police officers who've had their skulls fractured, who have maintained their resolve and their restraint. So those tactics will sometimes be out there, but it is my direction to minimize those, and if we can, to not use those at all, especially if there's peaceful protesters. And I know for folks who are sometimes in the front, they don't know that something just happened in the back, where bottles or bricks were just thrown. But we have to figure out a way to make sure that peaceful protesting anywhere in Los Angeles does not meet that. Second, in terms of Chief Moore, I've known this man's heart for decades. He was the person brought in after the Rampart scandal to clean up that station as a captain. When I heard him say what he said, I knew that he did not mean that, and I know that he corrected it right away. It is not the moral equivalent, and it does not reflect certainly my thinking. That statement is a wrong statement, that looters are the equivalent of murderers. Looting is wrong, but they are not the moral equivalents. The officers who killed George Floyd are murderers. I'm glad he quickly corrected it, and I'm glad that he further apologized as well. I also do believe that some folks who went out there and said he said protesters, he never said protesters were, even when he misspoke. And I want to be very, very clear about that. If I believed for a moment that the chief believed that in his heart, he would no longer be our chief of police. I can't say that any stronger. Next question, please.
The next question comes from Robert Kovacic at KNBC Television. Mr. Mayor, you're considered by many to be one of the most progressive mayors in LA's history. And now hundreds show up outside your home to protest. We know you encourage the right to express their thoughts, but do you think these individuals have the wrong impression of you?
Oh, I never worry about people's impressions. I can only share my heart. I've shared my heart tonight, and I want people to know that I hear them. I hear them loud and clear. I've devoted my life to an incredibly difficult pathway professionally. There are a lot easier jobs than being mayor of Los Angeles. But the things that I love most in this city, my family and Los Angeles, are both here in the City of Angels. And I'm never going to give up on either one. I'm never going to give up on the opportunities of my daughter to grow up in a better city, in a better world than the one I inherited, and that Daddy has an active role to play in building that. And I'm never going to give up on the voices that aren't at the table, that aren't heard. It's what fuels me. Look, some people, when you become a public official, lift you up and make you into something much nicer and better than you are, and others tear you down. And in both cases, they probably don't know you very well. But I've come to accept this is about the work that we do, not the feelings that we have. And I'm proud of the protesters across the city who are peacefully expressing themselves. You don't sign up for a job like mayor if you aren't willing to not only take the heat, but to hear the voices. And I never let loud or angry or upset voices cloud me from hearing the words. And I never will stop that